Great to see you again.
Yeah, good
So,
to see you, John.
there's a lot of questions about the water, but I just got to ask, do you have any updates for us?
No, we have methodological confounds in the COVID, and I'm trying to come up with an unraveling. But the short version is it's not going to end up to be a pure double-blind placebo control study. There's going to be some corruption and certain closer to a pilot study than anything else. But I
So,
don't have I don't have those data run, and I've got a couple of folks entering data, and because I've got this blinded all over the place, including me not being a person who enters data. So other folks more disinterested are doing the disinterested part of the grunt work. It's not ready yet. Everything we've seen so far, without calling it systematic, is encouraging, but I prefer to be conservative about this.
and that's what I appreciate about your work, Bill. You're conservative in your interpretations.
Yeah, yeah. I need multiple. I don't need 30 years, but I need independent replication, and I need some replication.
So I know you're methodologist. This is really what you study. It's what you teach. It's what you've been doing for many years. And so there's a lot of questions around the methodology and to clarify some things. But I'm going to start off with something that's a little easier. It's like, are you talking about this water? Is it kind of like holy water that you're talking about here?
I can't imagine anyone confusing me and holy. So I'm gonna have to say no. Yeah, if someone thinks my treated water is holy, that's on them, not me.
So you've looked at like utilizing homeopathy and
Yeah,
the methods of homeopathy
yeah.
in order to increase the strength or the effectiveness of these. Have you looked into other types of things like Ayurvedic traditions? Like, for example, someone was talking about the fact that there are certain correlations between breast cancer and the moon and cotton and water. And I'm sorry, I don't know the details,
Yeah.
but I'm just wondering, have you looked into any of those things?
I mean, I've superficially. I don't know the stuff in any meaningful, in-depth way. I tend to be slightly myopic in my focus, so I have a particular method that seems to produce interesting results. And in the clinical world anyway, without it being under controlled conditions, I mean, there's all sorts of healing techniques and traditions and all that. And my observation, because I don't know them, nor am I a scholar in any way of inter-method healing, my simple observation without strong evidence is that different healing techniques seem to do different things. Some healing techniques are better than my stuff at certain things, and not as good as my stuff on other things. And I think a very, very, very robust area of research should be, because all healing's not alike. It's just not. And so, you got Reiki people, and you got touch people and not touch people and meditating people and all that. And I'm not, I just saying they're different methods, presumably trying to produce the same thing, but they seem to have different outcomes. And that's an opening. I got a scroll of things I haven't yet done. I can't throw this on it. I would encourage it. I would love to help someone who knows other healing techniques to let's play and let's look also at interactive effects.
This is,
Right now, I've started some studies that I'm not mentioning. I got a bunch of more stuff, but I'm looking at interactive effects since we scored with homeopathy as a method to perhaps enhance. We're looking at what happens if a homeopath works with my stuff, and then we put the treatment in. At what points in the treatment does it make a difference? And we're looking at clinical cases now.
well, you're speaking my language because when I first met you, it was like 8 years ago at an SSE conference, the first one I went to. I was talking about healing and how in everything I found, it's not just different practices people
Yeah,
have.
yeah,
Not like Reiki and hands-on healing. Yeah, those are different, but it's also the approach that people take to
yeah,
it that makes a
yeah.
difference. And so these are exactly, people think of healing as a homogeneous thing,
Yeah.
and it's clearly not.
No, no, no. And I'm not suggesting mine is better than anything else. It's I perhaps have delved a little more deeply than most people have experimentally, but I would love to see the comparative stuff done on similar models using different techniques. It's a beautiful thing. It's hard to do though. It's very hard to do. So this is not the stuff you throw together in your basement.
Well, that's why you make the big bucks, Bill,
Yeah, exactly.
because it's hard to do.
Yeah. If I could only break even, my life would be good.
So when you were doing some of the early mouse studies,
Yeah.
you would some of the things you reported is that you'd be working with a group and you'd have a control group and they'd be in a different lab or in a different
Yeah.
location and they'd get better too.
Yeah.
And when you're doing the water studies, do you have control groups set aside, and are you seeing similar things with the water studies?
Well, the water studies I actually designed. I have a multiple stage experiment designed but not carried out that'll parse out how much of placebo, for example, is psychological and how much is an actual resonant bonding to the experimental group. I haven't done that yet, and I've done kind of a midway idea in the COVID study. Was that's the reason for the historical group. So we have 100 people coming into a hospital. Nothing is done to them. We track the next week. The people are coming in, so we're not at a different historical time period. And the new people coming in, it was supposed to be treated and controlled. What I was looking for to answer your question, I don't have the answer. Is the historical group changed in the control in the next step?
I'm I'm not sure I understood that, but I'm sure you explained it well enough. I just kind of
Yeah,
got lost in the middle
or
there.
maybe I have no idea what I'm talking about. It could be.
Well, we people can follow up that in our extended discussions we have later. Um, you were the you're talking about how traditional scientists, medical people won't accept the fact that, hey, I got this water and it's
Yeah,
magic and it does all this stuff. But what if you were to use that water to create something that they would accept, like some inert substance made with this water?
yeah,
A pill is, that's just a
yeah,
sugar pill or something.
yeah, exactly. And so what are the different ways we can bottle this? And what are the different ways we can mass produce this? That's we've only touched, or at least I've only touched the surface of this. And what are the possibilities? And the answer is I don't know. So water works, and it turns out to be scalable. Cotton works, but I'm not sure how to scale it. The recording is scalable, but I got to tinker with it, and that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It means there's work to be done.
Mhm.
This isn't some miracle that I'm discovering. This is something that we got to dive into and make a reliable phenomenon.
So I want to talk a little bit about conditioned spaces
Yeah,
for a moment. You were mentioning this effect that when it occurs in a certain location, if you have an incubator and then you leave it alone for a while and you bring other things back in, and it has an effect on them as if there is a lingering
yeah,
healing effect. This is
yeah,
something that Watkins and Watkins wrote about back in 1970.
yep,
Back that there was a healing effect that seemed to linger in a
yep,
specific location.
yep,
I've worked with Graham
yep,
Watkins since then, and we've seen other effects that were similar to this. But it seems that instead of it being in a location, like a geographic location, it's actually on the instrument itself. And that
okay,
instrument could be moved to any location and you still see the linger.
yeah.
And I
That's
was wondering if
interesting.
this is similar to what you were seeing with your gizmo and the way you were working with it.
I think that there is a conditioning of stuff, of gizmo, or I don't know if the plural is gizmi. But if we take gizmi and we play with it, what we do when we do experiments is I actually clear it in between experiments because I think, I'm reasonably convinced something is a residual. And again, I'm as fascinated as anything else by the methodological implications, the data interpretations. You're looking at stuff, and just like if anyone doing experiments, one of the faith-based assumptions, and it is a faith, is that physical separateness means independence. Folks at this conference are all into non-locality and all that stuff, and I'm not putting it down. I'm into it too. But if non-locality, if you carry the implications of that down the road, you've got all sorts of data analytic complications, methodological issues, and you may not be interpreting what you think you're interpreting.
Well, and we talk about conditioned objects or conditioned space. A room is an object.
Yeah,
It's just a big object, and a house is a big object. And so
yeah,
conditioning an object, you may be able to move it. Rooms you just can't move, or
yeah,
certain spaces you can't move.
yeah.
So a room in a hospital you condition is
Right.
may just be like conditioning an object.
And is there an entropic phenomenon that goes there? Does it start and fade? Does it, I mean, I don't know. There's all sorts of questions. I'm sure I could take every single person at the conference, give them 100 research projects, and not be even close to done. One or two things left that haven't studied.
I think you've tried that with me a couple times. Yeah. So what you said, you clear objects. What do you mean? How do you clear them?
Well, there's a couple of ways. So we actually have used in labs that are far away. So for example, in Tokyo, it's kind of far, and I shipped over to the lab something called clean sweep, which is supposed to be an energetic neutralizer. No, I don't know if it is, but I've done the clean sweep with sensitives, and I'm exploiting sensitives and medical intuitives and all that stuff as input into my experiments. And they tell me that it works, and I'm not a sensitive, but I can tell something's going on with that. And you can also, I mean, I don't have any special powers, but putting your hands around something with an intention to clear seems to do something. And that in and of itself, pre-post kind of stuff would be a lot of fun. We could get all sorts of studies going.
Mm.
But these wouldn't be welcome because if these kind of linkages, if non-locality is real, and I think it is, if non-locality is real, just think of all the ditties we got in textbooks that are misinterpretations of what you were actually studying. So there's no way that that's ever going to be popular.
Just like conditioned space.
It's like conditioned space.
If you have a conditioned space when you're doing a study, then it's going to shoot the whole rest of the experience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so let's pretend there's non-locality. Let's pretend there's locality. Let's pretend that conditioned space doesn't happen. Let's pretend. So every experiment that we do in any lab, it's got a set of, let's assume, pretend is too strong, but let's assume that this is the way the world works. And within that, this is the logic of my analysis. But the analysis is presupposed on a series of faith-based assumptions.
So how far does this charged water go, Bill? I mean, if I'm someone who's a healer and I drink your charged water, does it make me a super healer?
No, I don't think so. We drink it here just for fun. To see if there's an overdose. I give it to anybody I don't like, and see if it knocks them off. And so far, there's been no ill effects whatsoever. So people sit there and they drink glasses of this stuff. I don't know if you can bathe in it, shower in it, whatever like that. But it doesn't. I don't think it gives you superpowers. I don't think anything like that at all. I think it's stimulating something. And I said a long time earlier, I think that healing itself is stimulated by the healee, not the healer. And we focused on what does the healer do? My question is, what is the stimulation of the healee, and how does that world construct itself?
Really, really interesting approach, and very different than other things I've heard in the past. It's really interesting. So give me a sec here, because you're talking about so many issues. These keep running out of my mind. Oh, so we are getting low on time here, but I wanted to ask, some people were saying, my animal has tumors.
Yeah.
Can I use this to fix my animals?
Yeah.
How can I do that?
The answer is yes. And I'm working, I have other experiments going on now with vets. So I got veterinarians using it on dogs and cats and putting water into their water bowl. And anecdotally, they're telling me ridiculous things that drive my skeptical head nuts. These aren't systematic. These are kind of poking around. What happens if I give it to a vet? What happens if I if a vet starts giving the water to the vet's patients? What happens if we condition the space of the veterinarian exam room? What happens, what happens, what happens? Again, these are just all applications. Now, it turns out the vets who are claiming that this is happening and that's happening and the tumor fell off and yada, yada, they're not asking the fundamental questions, that we ask, certainly in the SSE. They're just saying, I'd like to fix that cat. Give me more. And when water is treated with a couple of drops of this stuff in the water bowl, and you then try to swap the bowls and you put regular water in, the cat will tell you, no, give me my water. Don't do a bait and switch here. They want more of the stuff. And you put out multiple bowls and only one has the drop in, they go to the drop. Animals aren't as hung up as we are. Mice just accept the help. Tulips are happy when you intervene. Humans flop on the floor and go, no, it's not possible. I don't believe this crap.
So when are you going to turn this into a business and start selling these in Bill's Magic water bottles? I mean, people were really asking, where can I get this?
Well, you can get it. I mean, you actually can get it. We have a couple of stuff that we're giving out. I just, actually did a bunch of the antiviral to a conference that was going on because they wanted to hold a conference. And they said, if you give us a bunch of them and we all have the antiviral, we're going to give the conference. Now, I have no idea if any of them are alive, but oh, Garrett's alive. So it is available. It can be gotten from a group in the Netherlands who's handling it now. We're hoping by the end of the summer to have it available widespread in the States. And the goal is to get it out there. We're not trying to make a buck. We're not trying to lose a buck. I'm losing money doing this stuff. I'm trying to at least break even.
That's an honorable goal.
Yeah, well, I haven't attained it yet. I'm definitely in the red. This stuff is not a moneymaker.
So, Bill, you've been president of SSE for 12 years, and you got this nice plaque. I tried to make a little certificate for you, but it looks like a kid made it with a coloring crayon,
Yeah.
But do you want to say anything about the SSE and how people can join and what we can do to make the organization continue?
I would say join, play. Scientificexploration.org is the website. There's similar memberships to the PA, and we're going to be talking about some of this and where we're going and such in the business meeting on Sunday. And so if you want to hear about the transitions coming up in the SSE, and there are transitions in officers and a variety of things coming on. And so I stepped down after 12 years. 12 years is enough. And I think it becomes unhealthy after a while. So as Mark graciously said in the beginning, people said, just one more term. But it was, I was going to do it 3 years ago, which is the term of the presidency. And I had a weak moment and I stayed on again. This one I drew a line in the sand, said, no, nobody's crossing that line. It's time for a change. We're going to have good things coming. The SSE is going to be extraordinarily vibrant, and you'll hear details on that at the business meeting. It's a wonderful organization. It's wonderful.
Well, Bill, it's been great to work with you in this context for the past couple of years and for even before that. And I know you're going to be around the conference even more because I have you scheduled for things in the future. So,
yeah.
I know we're going to see you some more. I just want to thank you